Right, thank you very much. Today I'm filling in for Drawer, which is a core developer in Visual Web GUI. My name is Ori Cohen. As I said, I'm the support manager for Gizmox. I'd like to start the presentation now. Right. Okay, so today I'm going to present to you Visual Web GUI, the framework for enterprise web applications. Right, let's continue. The subjects of this presentations are the following. I'm going to dedicate around 10 minutes to the Pains of Data-centric rich internet applications development, then around 10 minutes to the Visual Web GUI approach to data-centric application development, then around 5 minutes of development demo, then bringing HTML5 and jQuery to Visual Web GUI, which will take approximately 5 minutes, maybe a little more, a jQuery demo, Visual Web GUI product overview, and showing you the roadmap for future plans, and then some time for questions by you. Right, so let's begin. Right, first slide. For the Pains of data-centric rich internet applications, I'd like to begin with talking a little bit about the web. Web development for enterprise data-centric applications is normally very complicated. It's not like website design. It's more, it allows for a lot of data to be presented, to be manipulated, to be shown in various ways, and bound to other views inside the application. All of this requires a lot of programming, a lot of logic in terms of the application itself and the framework in which it is working. Well, basically, what will happen in this, we'll need something to allow asynchronous communication between client and server. Usually Ajax is the solution for this. Just 1 second. I'm seeing that you cannot see the slides. Right. Just 1 second, please. Right, can you see those? Okay, just 1 second. Can you see the slide now? Excellent. Sorry for that. Now, okay. Now, as I said, we're going to need Ajax and some other technology to allow for binding, to allow for communication between client and server. And that's not an easy thing to do. We're going to cover that now. Basically, when you have Ajax embedded on your application, on your data-centric rich application, you're gonna have a lot of communication between client and server. The controls themselves are not interconnecting unless you program that into the application, and basically you require a lot of skill and a lot of precise work to be able to pull out a very good and working and responsive application that does all the data manipulation and all the work with the binding and stuff to work very, very well. Actually, it's not something that any HTML or .NET programmer any .NET programmer can do. It's something that you have to learn. It's something that you have to acquire the skill to be able to do correctly. On another issue of Ajax, when you add Ajax communication to your application, you basically right off the bat you add a lot of development time that you need to spend developing your application. When controls are communicating between each other using Ajax, usually what happens is there is a lot of communication going back and forth from the client to server, and this is a major bandwidth consideration, requiring much larger communication ports between client and server, making the application usually slower. You're probably familiar with that just by using third-party controls by any of the major vendors. You'd probably see that the moment you place such a control in your application, immediately the control looks a little less responsive than other controls in the application that are not using Ajax. Well, basically there's no really way out other than using Ajax on your application. Even though when you're using Ajax, you're putting a lot of the logic and the data on the client itself, which is a major security hazard and a major concern for people not moving from desktop applications and other implementations, even virtualization, not moving them to the client over Ajax because of these security concerns. Another thing is data binding. Data binding is normally for not for a small, like a small grid bound to some data table on the server side. If it's something more complex, more with a lot of views and a lot of ways to present the data on the client in connection to other controls, this is something that you'd have to write custom code to do, and this custom code would have to contain a lot of logic both on client side and on server side, and this is an entry to a lot of on bugs that are very, very hard to track and very hard to fix sometimes. It could halt a development, and it's really a concern in most web applications. Most of the time, when such complex binding is required, use of third-party controls is brought into place, even just for the binding itself to be done, because those are really very, very complicated things to accomplish in a web environment when the client is completely disconnected from the server, and from when one control is disconnected from other controls on the client itself. Actually, when this is done normally in custom implementation of data binding, what is done by programmers is taking a data table or some other form of data and placing a table, saving a table, storing it on the client itself, just to be able to retrieve information quickly without going back and forth to the server. And that is a problem for synchronization of data. The data is not always up to date, and sometimes you have to take that into consideration, that you're not showing up-to-date data on the client. And that is also a security hazard, because you're placing the actual data itself, the data that the client is working on, the data that is considered as the valid data on the server side. You're placing that on the client, and a client with a little know-how will be able to easily manipulate this data, and could cause actual real damage to the system. Sometimes even business logic is placed on client side to be able to have calculations, to have communication between data, to present something, and this can also be very easily manipulated by specific people with the know-how to do that. Right. Okay. So state management. State management is something that is not very natural for web applications, because the HTTP protocol that web runs over is completely stateless. There's absolutely nothing stateful by definition in the HTTP standard protocol. There are several techniques brought later with the HTTP protocol, such as cookies, such as URL arguments, HTML form input fields, and others. Those are also used to create partially stateful or more than that stateful applications, and when used in web applications, and they are used extensively, they cause exposing logic and data and other sensitive stuff to the clients, and could cause also security problems. They blow up the client size and make communication not dramatically larger, but they do increase communication and require more bandwidth. Making applications stateful is something that is required by many applications, because by many designs, but because you want the user to be able to start a session, for example, logging into the application and continuing to work, and even if the user refreshes the page for some reason or makes a normal request from client to server, you want the application to be able to recognize the user on server side and be able to serve him the correct data on the specific page or view that is seeing at the moment. And that is something that is very, very important, especially in data-centric, rich web applications. And that is something that is very, very hard to accomplish in web applications also. Not only in Microsoft environment, right, in ASP.NET, but in all environments I'm familiar with, which are probably all of them. Okay, now for the Visual Web GUI approach. The Visual Web GUI approach to these is a more of a whole solution to the web application development strategy. It's built over ASP.NET, and so it's completely object-oriented, and it allows facilities provided by those .NET libraries, for example, ADO.NET, for example, the Entity Framework, LinkQ, and others. It allows for making use of the web itself as an advantage, because when you deploy to HTML without requiring users to make installations and to require plugins for displaying data or for connecting to whatever, when you simply give a URL to a user and can use the application right away without doing anything but surfing to the application using the browser, that gives you a lot of power, especially when you simply develop using common tools like .NET. Sorry. Visual Web GUI comes natively out of the box with cross-browser support, which is really very, very important. It's a very big issue in creating web applications. It's not something to take lightly. We have put a huge amount of work into this. Basically, you develop an application using your Visual.net environment that we created in Visual Web GUI into the Visual Web GUI product, and basically the user can use his application almost no matter what browser is using. We do support the most common browsers like Mozilla Firefox, like Microsoft Internet Explorer, like Google Chrome, Apple Safari, Opera, and we recently introduced a new type of the Visual Web GUI framework, which I'll discuss later, which allows support for other browsers. As I said, we will be discussing this. Okay, now to continue with the slide. The Visual Web GUI approach for Ajax connectivity management. Well, that's one of the major pains, as I discussed in the previous slide. What Visual Web GUI does for this is provide it's built into the Visual Web GUI framework a full Ajax implementation on the application level, not the control level. This is very important to understand, and if required, I will abbreviate on this. Ajax on the application level means that the entire application lives inside the same scope, uses the same pipeline for Ajax, XML, HTTP, and basically the controls intercommunicate. The client is one client core that shares client libraries and shares the communication level. I will be discussing very shortly. This is very important, mostly because it reduces bandwidth, it increases security, it allows you to be completely free of worrying about implementing or working with or enabling any Ajax implementation or control or communication. This is really something you do not have to worry about anymore. You simply have to create your controls, create your bindings, which is very simple. I'll be talking about that shortly. Assembling your UI using the visual designer, and everything will be working as you expect it to. Sorry. The client as a whole and the server are able to communicate freely and asynchronously. That means that when you use a specific control and updated something to the server, you're not seeing refreshing on the page. You're not seeing. Sorry, I have to drink something. Well, you're not seeing flickering. You're not waiting for something to happen. Everything is very quick, very immediate. And that is something that is also very important when creating any application, not just a web application. But in web, waiting time is really an issue because lately data-centric applications are becoming much more complex and much larger than they used to be. with a lot of requirements for a lot of data to be presented and everything to be quick and snappy, and that's something that is really a consideration for software development companies and for enterprises developing their own applications. So Visual Web GUI really allows all of that. Now, every application that you create will be containing all this built-in Ajax. This is again not something that you'll need to add or create or enable in any way, and you'll see that very shortly, because we have a demo coming up soon. Right? Okay. For optimization of Ajax, what I mean actually by saying only delta send. We have an XML storing the client side state, the current UI state of the application, of the current view. Basically, the server contains the entire state of the application, and the client, being an empty client, will only hold a simple XML that is encoded to make it much smaller. You will be seeing that XML also very briefly. This XML only holds the state of the current controls shown, and only the part of the state that is relevant to the display and behavior of the controls presented on screen. This is very dramatic. We put a lot of effort on this to minimize this XML, this current UI state, as much as possible. And what this means also is when the client updates the server, it updates the server based on the client core, on the current UI state. For example, if you have a table shown on screen, and you change the selected row in the table, and you have an event that you have a handler attached to for a selected index change, for example. If that event is registered, the XML will have a notice of that, and when the client will notice that the selected row has been changed, it will notify the server based on the client logic. It will know to do that by itself. That is not something that you need to code yourself. And that means that you can do changes on client side, and if they're not registered to the server as what we call critical events. Critical event is an event registered on the server that is requiring an immediate request, HTTP request, initiated by the client to the server. If you're firing such a critical event, what will happen? This event will immediately be fired to the server, and it will bring with it in a batch all the non-critical events, the events not registered on server side and not requiring an immediate request to the server. Those events will be sent inside the same XML request to the server. That also minimizes the amount of communication, the amount of requests sent to the server. That reduces a lot of resource requirements on the server side, and reduces the amount of load on the client side as well. So when deltas are being sent, that means that the server is only updating the client on the changes, the UI changes that are required to be made. For example, if you open a dialog window it will only the current UI state will only show the dialog window as a change, and all the content of that dialog window. It will not render the entire application again. It will not send the entire state of the application from server to client, but only the required changes. For example, if text of a label inside a very, very large, very complex application is changed, a label is a text view. If that changes, only the text of the label will be sent via XML from server to client based on a request made by the client. So that's one part of the optimization. The other part, the event buffering, is what I discussed before. There is a queue on client side where events that are non-critical are stacked or queued on client side, waiting for a critical event to be fired, and then all events are fired simultaneously. That also reduces bandwidth by a lot, and reduces communication, the amount of requests sent. I would like to show you part of this XML, so please stay with me. I will provide you in 1 second, please. I will provide you via the chat a link to a page, and we'll show you the page. One second, please. Right. This page is a page of our website inside the technology tab of the main view of the website. In this page you can see a detailed explanation about Visual Web GUI performance, but what I want to show you currently before I go to the demo is a sample of an XML. I'll show you how to be able to retrieve it on a Visual Web GUI application. This is all very, very easy to do. Basically what you're seeing here is form. Everything is coded, so you're not supposed to be able to read this very, very easily. TLC, for example, is a table layout. B is a button, table layout panel, label, form. And what you see here basically is the current UI state stored on client side. You see this is very, very, very small. Everything, all the properties of every control that are not default are sent. The default properties, if a property is not changed from the default, it's not even stored on state and server, and not also stored on the client. The server doesn't update the client on properties that are not changed from default. All right. Back to the slide. Right, okay. So as I said, XML is coded to save space, and the events are also stacked to save time. Now, also when I say optimized and secure, it is very, very important to mention that all the logic of the application is stored only, and this is very, very important to understand that the logic is only on server side. The code, the core that is on client side is only meant to deal with rendering the view that I just showed you as the current UI state. Render that to HTML, and that would be with that HTML that is rendered, the browser is able to create the visual view and the behavior of the controls themselves. and to handle the events back and forth to the server. So this is also very important security-wise. So there is no logic, business logic, on the client itself. Right. Okay. So let's move on to secure by design. Secure by design is having all the data and all the logic completely disconnected from the client. The client, as I said previously, is completely empty. It's not storing any data. The data itself that it's containing, the current UI state, is completely irrelevant to the server. The server is not taking that as into account as part of the state, but only to be able to render that UI to HTML, so the browser could make a display out of it, and behavior also. That means that if whatever you do with the client, whatever manipulations you try to do to the data and the logic of the behavior on client side, you will not be able to affect the state on server side other than what the logic on server side allows you to do. That creates a very, very secure application. Basically, we had Gizmox, the company behind Visual Web GUI, had a security challenge for I think 3 or 4 months, maybe more, where I think 1,700 people participated, including very able hackers. We put an application on some server, on some dedicated server, very strong one, and we told everyone we would like you to try to make changes to the state on server side via the application itself. Do whatever you can, whatever you think is required, and if you prove that you made a change in server state, show us how. And for months, 1,700 people, nobody was even close to be able to. We truly think this is impossible by design. This cannot be done. And this is, as I said in the Pains slide, this is very, very important in data-centric applications. Okay, let's make sure I cover this all. Okay, now data binding. Data binding, as I said, is also a very, very important issue in web applications. And data binding is built into Visual Web GUI native controls. Thanks to built-in Ajax from the previous section, discussed in the previous section, data binding with Visual Web GUI can be done really relatively effortlessly. You're not meant to write the binding logic for the controls you use. Everything is already there for you to use and to be able to use freely. Visual Web GUI contains the most common controls available in .NET desktop development environment. You'll soon be able to see the demo, which will show you some of those controls. It also mimics the API of these controls. So if you have System Windows Forms application, you're able very quickly to take this application and use it in Visual Web GUI using simple changes, unless you're using custom code or third-party controls. That will make it a little more tricky, but still very possible. So that also enables Visual Web GUI applications to be very familiar to a large portion of .NET developers, and also very easy to learn because there are code examples and a lot of documentation on this desktop application environment framework. Okay. There are also controls unique to Visual Web GUI framework, and those also contain binding logic embedded into them natively. When I discuss binding features, you need to remember that you have the .NET framework libraries, like I said, like ADO.NET and others, that allow you to enjoy their features also in binding to data, to database, whatever you need to do between controls and such and whatever. And in Visual Web GUI also, as I said, it's visual development. It's really point and click, and it's almost the time to show you the demo. Now let's cover security. No data caching, hidden data, or logic on the client. What that means is basically that binding logic is logic of handling data is performed exclusively on the server, and the client is only provided with the UI that is meant to, for it to view. There is absolutely no data caching on the client. There is only the XML that's responsible for the current UI. And in terms of bandwidth benefits, as I said, binding logic is only on server side. Only the data that is meant to be viewed is sent to the client, and there is absolutely no intervention by the client in terms of data. So it's very, very low consumption of bandwidth enabled by this. Right. Okay, let's go quickly to state management. The state is by default saved on server-side memory, as I said. And to be able to allow scalability, Visual Web GUI allows you to save the state on a state server or an SQL database by changing a single configuration, which is very, very easy to do. This is something we'll not cover in this demo, in this presentation, but if you need more information, there's a lot of information on the website, on the knowledge base, and you will be able to get that information there. Sorry. We have a property store on the Visual Web GUI state management. The property store is something that I touched in a few words previously. This is a mechanism basically that is meant to store all the default values of all the properties of the Visual Web GUI controls. And basically, when you start using an application, the state that is kept on the server is only of the controls used, and for those controls, only the properties that are changed from default. This allows for a very, very small state to be kept on server side, which allows for very, very low memory consumption, and that is very dramatic when you have state management not on the server, on a state server or on a database. This is very, very, very important to allow for a lot of users to be able to use the application without a lot of memory and resource consumption. Sorry. statistically, we've been able to see that this technique of using the property store instead and saving on the actual state only the values changed of these properties and so on, and that reduces the size of the state saved to less than 10% of what would be saved otherwise, which is very, very dramatic. This allows the state management to be so highly optimized that we do believe that it is very, very realistic to deploy as many to allow as many as 800 concurrent users per server, which is a very, very large number, taking into consideration that Microsoft says in a normal ASP.NET environment using Ajax and other techniques, you're supposed to have as many as 400, more like 300 users per server concurrently. Right, okay, I see questions regarding the demo, which is a very good time to actually show the demo because this is the end of the slide. Right. Okay, so let's quickly go to the real stuff. Reading from slides is not very exciting. Okay, so let's go and start a new application, new Visual Web GUI application. Right, this is Visual Studio 2010, a more familiar environment for me than PowerPoint. Sorry. Right, okay, let's create quickly a Visual Web GUI application. Very simple. Right out, you see you have a form and not a page. Like here we have a normal ASP.NET, a web page. This is more like Windows desktop development environment. Now what I do to add controls is go to the designer view. Immediately you get a form that you can work with. Let's quickly add a few controls. This is a Visual Web GUI part of the toolbox. Sorry. Now let's add a split container. Sorry. And add let's add a panel and dock that. Sorry. Let's dock that to top, like so. Add a splitter. And dock that to top also. Let's add quickly another panel. Let's dock this one to fill. Right. Let's place list view in this area and property grid and what is that? Property grid, sorry. And let's dock this one to fill. Right. As you can see, everything is really very easy to do. We already have a list view here. Let's quickly bind that to data so you will be able to see something actual moving here. Okay, let's use current SQL Express Northwind database. Creating sorry, connection string, selecting, for example, customers table. Right. Okay. Now we'll bind the property grid to the list view. Sorry. And let's select the form And from the very large event list that we have here, let's double click on the load. Immediately we get a load event and direct it to the C# area. Let's fill the customer stable adapter to be able to show the data. Customers, no, I need the Northman data set, customer stable, and this should be it. Now, sorry. Right, let's set this page as a start form. And run the application. My apologies, run on the wrong screen. Right, okay. Now immediately we're able to see that this list view is bound to the database. That was very easy to do, I think. Right, okay, so this property grid actually what it does is controls this list view. So let's quickly let's change the border color from to this strange color, whatever it is, and I don't know, change the font to whatever this font is. I don't know. This font, this looks okay. And 11, no, well, that's too big. Sorry. No, just I want you to pay attention to how quickly this is working. This is all going very, very, very fast. And now, usually in applications, you have a lot of data shown on a specific table, and you're not meant in web environment to display huge amount of data right away on a table, and there are specific methods in web to allow you to handle this. One of them, like you know from search engines such as Google and such, is paging, and you're able to page between views of the data, and this is all very, very quick. You're also able to determine how many items you're showing per page. You can, for example, use 30, and immediately you have 30, which is more than I can show now. Right. Let's quickly return to design. Wait, still have this form here? Never mind. Okay. Quick sound check. Can you still hear me? Yay. Excellent. Okay. Now let's go back to the toolbox, which I probably closed. Aren't there any items in the toolbox? Right. Oh. That's probably why. Okay. Right. Never mind this. Okay. So let's quickly add a button here. You will notice that we can change the size of the button to whatever size and shape, and a label here, and a checkbox. Here, right? Oh, sorry. Checkbox. No, this isn't a checkbox. This is a checkbox. Okay. So now, additionally, I want to. Sorry, this is the list view. Now, additionally, I want when the selected index is changed on the list view, I want the label control to be activated. So what I do is go to this and select the label control, and set the text of the label control to the list view dot items, sorry, at the position of this dot list view dot selected index dot text, right? And I'll run this application, and now we'll be able to see, sorry again for the incorrect size, you'll be able to see, I'll drop this some more, that when I change the selected row, sorry again, I didn't save the paging. It's a more comfortable thing for me, at least, to use paging in these size of tables. When I change the selected row, I get the selected row, the selected item text shown on the list view here, visible here. Right, okay. Let's quickly go back to the slide. Wait, let me check that I haven't missed anything. Right, showed you the properties page. Right, now one last thing I want to show you still on the Visual Web GUI application here. We have three Visual Web GUI tabs added to the project properties page, shown here. One of them, for example, is the debugger. These are all serialized to the web config, and they're very easy to use, so you don't have to actually work with configurations. When I run this application now, you will be able to see a new debugger panel on the button. Now, as you noticed, I changed the position of the slider, and that doesn't send a request to the server, because you're not seeing any request sent on this pane here. But now when I select an item on the list view, or change the selection of the item on the list view, you are able to see a request and a response, a request and a response. Now, to be able to show this specific request, this specific request made, you're seeing what is actually sent. This is an event, and it said the splitter moved, because, as I said previously, events are queued, and only the selection changed, which was critical because I registered that on the server. Only the selection changed, event fired all the previous ones. So if I open the next one, you'll see only selected change because there weren't any events to queue previously. Now, to show you the response, you're able to see currently all of the list view that is rendered. Sorry, all the list view is rendered based on the change made, because currently you're seeing the entire view unpaged. Now, if I show you this view paged, you will see this is dramatically smaller because there is a lot less to render on the current UI. Right. So we're at the last response here. You'll see this is dramatically smaller. This is only the current page being shown. Right. As discussed. Okay, so let's go back to the slides. Right. So when currently on just 1 second, please. Right. Let's quickly, okay, let's quickly show you the demo of HTML5. Now, let's save that for later. I have a previous slide to show you. I think the slides got a little mixed up. Okay, sorry. So here I am with you. Okay, So we're talking now about bringing HTML5 and jQuery to Visual.net. Sorry. Basically, let's talk a little bit about HTML5. HTML5 and CSS3 are both cross-platform. That means it doesn't matter what operating system you're using and what browser you're supposed to be using. This is a standard and is supposed to be further standardized in the future. And this really brings with it a lot of visual and graphical capabilities directly out of native browser support. That is entirely without any plugins or other installations like, for example, Silverlight or Flash are requiring currently. To be able to run Silverlight applications, you need to install Silverlight client. The same with Adobe Flash. Right. Okay. So, for example, things you get with HTML5 and CSS3 are built-in drag-and-drop support, text effects, transitions, animations, semi-transparent surfaces, and etc. Recently, I hear more and more web experts saying that they believe that HTML5 and CSS3 will eventually, most probably, replace Microsoft Silverlight and Adobe Flash. And this seems reasonable. Google, Mozilla, Apple, Opera, and others support HTML5 and CSS3. And now recently Microsoft is coming up with HTML5 and CSS3 support in Internet Explorer 10, which is also very, very exciting. It's going to bring new times. Visual Web GUI allows you, as I said, integration to the ability to develop your applications entirely in Visual Web in a Visual.net environment. With all the libraries and the .NET Power and object-oriented programming and whatever you're used to from developing applications, but it gives you also the ability to have applications viewed using rendered HTML5 and CSS3, which is very, very exciting. To quickly cover jQuery, the second section. Well, basically, Visual Web GUI client, the Visual Web GUI client core makes a lot of use of the jQuery library, which is now very, very common and almost a requirement in almost any web application or website or anything that has to do with the web. jQuery, for those of you who are not familiar with it, is a library based on JavaScript code. Using this library allows us to create a much smaller JavaScript code core on client side, which makes the client lighter and much easier, much faster to send to the client machine itself. It allows us to create cross-browser support much more easily, and increase client performance, which is also very, very important. Now, providing you this access to jQuery on our client resources for customization of controls and even creating new ones gives you a lot of power on client side, which is very important for you to be able to create your customization of controls to exactly the way that you want them. And this is, as I said, a technology very, very familiar to web developers, which probably most of you are, or at least a lot of you. Okay. Now to discuss the third part, client resources overridable. Basically, we created a very unique tool in Visual Web GUI to allow you to completely customize all the resources, all the client resources of all the controls, native controls that Visual Web GUI has, and also of custom controls that you have. You have a tool to very, very easily customize those. For example, if we have JavaScript on a control and you think you'd be better off adding some functionality to it using jQuery or HTML5 animations or such, and you're very easily able to do that. Also for CSS, for templates, for HTML, for images, controls, many controls such as button are created out of images, and you're able to very, very easily edit those images of every control using a tool that we created in-house. Sometimes changing styles using CSS directly for large applications requires digging deep into the application, finding out the connection of the CSS classes or definitions to parts of the applications, and to parts of the application you're not completely certain all the time where this is going, where that is going, and what uses this and what uses that. So in Visual Web GUI and this tool that I talked to you about called the Skin Designer, you're easily able to using property grid properties, select style properties that are hierarchically placed. I'll show you that very, very soon in the demo. You're allowed to view them, to change them, just like you would when you're working and when you're designing a Visual Web GUI application, like I showed you with the fonts, with colors. You have dialogues, you have a lot of visual tools that are very, very easy to use, and the result of that is that the changes you make are actually made behind the scenes into the CSS that is rendered to client side. And so you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about making changes to CSS. You just change the properties and everything is done for you. The properties are named in a way that is very, very easy for you to understand what the property does and what style it affects. Okay, let's show you now the demo from the demos from the from the slide previously shown. Right. As before, of course, the browser opens on a different screen, on the wrong screen. Okay, HTML5 demo. Let's log in quickly. Now, just to be able to show you, we created a demo that shows you email content using an HTML5 and CSS3 manner. What you see here is basically a to, a subject, a send, and the content of the email. Everything is active. Everything is as you can see, is usable. And to be able to switch between views, you simply click on a specific email message that you want to be able to see, and you simply switch. You're also able, you will not be able to see me doing this, but you're also able to use right key, left key, up, down, home, for example, and to move between them. This is all done very, very easily. Sorry. Okay, let's show you how this is actually done. Sorry. I'll quickly go to quickly go here, and show you the resources responsible for this. Basically what you see here is an HTML example, completely HTML. What you saw before was a visual web GUI application. This is pure HTML, as you can see here. You can see you have an image shown inside a div element and such. These resources are almost unchanged. You can see you have the jQuery the jQuery library itself with the license and such. We're using that in Visual Web GUI with the license embedded, so there is no licensing problem. You have the rows, you have the slides themselves as span elements inside div elements. You have the JavaScript itself using HTML5 responsible for skewing. I'll show you that again. As you can see, the pages themselves are skewed a little bit, and also for scaling, because the pages, the pages showing the messages not currently viewed are smaller than the messages currently in view. As you can see, they're getting larger every time. So that's the code responsible for that. This is the CSS actually making it happen. As you can see, this is all pure HTML5. Let me quickly show you this example. I'll run that in the browser so you will be able to see. This is the example. As you can see, you can move between pages the same way. That's basically what we implemented into the application you saw previously. Now, to quickly continue this, I'm going to show you a Visual Web GUI application in Visual Studio 2008. As you can see, you have a form like you previously did. You have a content flow control, flow item, and a flow skin. This is, the content flow control is basically a derivative of the tab control, which is a Visual Web GUI native control. Just so you'll be able to see, see Gizmo's Web GUI forms tab control. Now the content flow uses the resources that you saw previously to allow you to have the same kind of view. And in a second you'll be able to see that. What you see now is Visual Web GUI controls active, allow you to be able to work. You see you have the button here, you see you have the tree view, you have a list view here with buttons. You can move between them. This is actually a different view of the tab control, and this is actually very, very cool to be able to display tab control in this kind of view. To very, very quickly go over this, the content flow item, which is derived of a tab page. A tab page is a page inside a tab control. We override the should render content because we want to render content for all tabs, not only the tab that is in current view. We want to see the content of all tabs, and to see the code of the content flow itself. Just to quickly go over this, we render all the controls. We render all the controls in the tab page in the content view, and There's really no need to go over this all. It's all very, very, very simple. Very easy to do. Right, okay. So, sorry. Okay. Okay. Now, sorry, this one. Now, if I go to this, sorry, this was not the application I meant to open. If I go to this application again, open the design view, sorry. Okay, and I want to add a page to this content flow, a content flow item. I add a new content flow item. Okay, I go to this content flow item and, for example, toolbox. Sorry. I add a list view control. These are not sorted. Now they are. List view. I dock it to fill inside the container. And just to quickly do the data binding as we did before. New connection, SQL Express. So, okay, now we have a connection string. We select the table, customers table, for example, and we have binding. We go back, sorry, to the form and the load event to again, sorry, customers table adapter fill this dot row. Sorry. Again, Northern dataset, customers, and when I run this application now, what we'll see is a new top page with the list view I just added. I can also do paging on this one, so it will be better performing, even though it's, as you can see, it's working very, very, very fast. Okay. Now, okay, let's go back to the first application I showed you. This one. I'd like to show you something very quickly. I'm going to add a reference to a project, a built-in project in Visual Web GUI, a library. We call, oh, this is taking a long time. Sorry, okay. I wasn't concentrating. Okay. Let's call forms themes. Okay. Now, when I add this project, I am now able to add a theme item to this application. A theme is basically what allows us to customize client resources of an application, and you can save also a theme in a specific library to use it on multiple applications. As you can see the entire built-in controls that are referenced currently. We have additional assemblies with additional controls that are not shown here, but you can see all the controls. For example, if I take the checkbox and I override this image, when I override it, the file is added to the theme because that's the file changed. I double click on an image, sorry, and this opened in Microsoft Paint, which is not what I wanted. Okay, let's quickly open it with a different application. Let's go to, sorry, let's do this in another way. Right, I'm going to add, open this in image editor of my choice. So, okay. Open containing folder, and this is my checkbox. Now I'm simply going to change any color to not pink, but let's say this. I'm saving the image, and when I go back to the designer, I'm going to see that the image is blue. Now, when I go to project properties and I register this theme, you'll see it as theme 1 here, and I select it as the default theme of the application. What you'll be able to see is a checkbox that when I check it is checked using the provided image. Now, maybe it's not a very good looking image, but at least you can see how easy it is to customize if you give this tool, the theme designer, to a graphic designer and tell them this is the design tool. I want the application to look like that. You'll be very easily able to make changes to the images. And as I said previously, this is the property grid I previously talked to you about, containing the styles connected to the CSS of the application. Everything I change here will make changes in every checkbox of every application that uses this theme. For example, if I change the back color to anything, and I run this application when it uses the theme 1 theme, the back color of the checkbox will be as I set it in this theme. So this is a very, very useful tool for customizing the look and feel of controls. One more thing I forgot to show you, when you're selecting, where is that combo checkbox, sorry, you're able to see the images, the style sheets. You have a style sheet that you can also override the scripts, the templates, the HTML, whatever of this control. You're able to edit it by overriding it from this tool exactly, right? Okay, so let's quickly continue. Now, we've seen the slide before, and we've seen the jQuery HTML5 demo, and now we're going to the roadmap. This is the first part of the roadmap slides. Okay, so let me quickly explain what ProStudio.NET-HTML5 means. .NET-HTML5 is a new type of the Visual Web GUI framework in which we created a new library called jQuery templates, or in short JQT. We created this library. This library allows us to transform the XML current UI state into HTML using JQT instead of the XSLT rendering engine we had previously. We had in the previous version, currently called ProStudio WinWeb. This new type of the Visual Web GUI framework, this new part of the client core, enables us to support mobile browsers such as Android, iPhone, iPad, and such that was not able to to work as of XSLT, lack of support in those browsers in the ProStudio WinWeb type, the original type of Visual Web GUI. And in .NET HTML5, we're now able to do that. The .NET HTML5 also is evolving now to contain more HTML5 and CSS3 content that has fallbacks to browsers that do not support those features, those new features of HTML5 and CSS3. So if you're using a browser that doesn't have this feature, you don't have to worry, because it's gonna look just fine, but just without the feature that you allowed for the browsers that do support it. .NET HTML5 also brings a lot of performance benefits on client speed. It's much faster than ProStudio WinWeb, and that's also a large consideration. .NET HTML5 was released to the community as a first beta on March this year, March 2011, and has been released as Beta 2 and Beta 2B, which is the last released version of .NET HTML5 just recently. And very few reports of stability have been reported. Most of them, almost all of them, were reported on documentation tools, so not on the .NET HTML5 type itself. All of those have been fixed a long time ago and are in the past now. ProStudio.NET HTML5 is going to be replacing ProStudio WinWeb in terms of the client core, the jQuery, instead of XSLT, meaning that WinWeb will also have a jQuery core very soon, also supporting mobile devices. Okay, so basically ProStudio.NET HTML5 for data-centric HTML5 applications with complete jQuery extensions capability, broader browser mobile support, and better performance. This will be released in Q1 2012 as a release, not as a beta. That is very important to mention, because, as I said, this type of the Visual Web GUI framework is going to take more web-like view, more web-like controls, more web-like best practices on client side. The server side is going to be remaining exactly the same for both types of the Visual Web GUI SDK. Okay, the ProStudio WinWeb for data-centric web and cloud applications, Visual.NET simplicity and productivity, will allow also cross-browser accessibility, and will allow easy look and feel customizations, just the same as the .NET HTML5. It will be released on December 2010, also adding a lot of Windows desktop applications compatibility in terms of API and controls. To continue the roadmap, part 2, we have few developments in terms of migrating applications into Visual Web GUI. If you have a current application using .NET Desktop, sometimes called Windows Forms, or VB6 applications, or Oracle Forms, or COBOL with MicroFocusNet Express, we have an automated tool. We have automated tools such as the assessment tool that allows you to assess the amount of work required to migrate your application to Visual Web GUI. If you're into migrating this application, will show you how much work can be done automatically, how much manually, what is the scope of the manual work that needs to be done. Sorry. That the assessment tool currently only assesses Windows Forms application, desktop Windows applications, and VB6 assessment tool will be available by September 2011. The transposition tool, allowing the completely automated migration, is currently only available as a service, meaning you could contact us via our contact page, which I'll be able to provide you in a sec. Just a second. And you are able to contact us using the contact us page and ask that we migrate your application using the transposition services as a service. And this will develop as time goes by very quickly to a first beta in September this year, 2011, and to a release in Q4 2011 by the end of the year. For contact us page, sorry, for just a second. For a contact us page, you can see this page here, which I just sent to you using the chat. Right. Okay. For the next slide. Now, okay, let's talk about mobile. That's probably the hottest subject discussed lately in relation to web application development. I've not talked about much about the subject in this presentation, so it's probably time to start. Okay, we took basically the Outlook, the Microsoft Office Outlook 2007 application, and decided a while ago that we want to create a Visual Web GUI application that mimics the behavior, the look and feel of this application. And we took a single developer, gave him a little less than a month, let's say a month, to develop such an application, and the result was an application very similar to Outlook, with a lot of functionality, with actually emails working very, very well. I will give you a link to this page also. The sorry, the username is Itzik, and the password is 12345. Okay, so this is the application. As you can see, there's a lot of functionality here. For example, you can see the account settings. You can see, for example, showing reading pane, not showing it. You can open a dialog, you can reply, you can simply go between mail directories, go to deleted, whatever. So this is basically an application you can send, you can receive emails from here. Sorry. And this is a Visual Web GUI application developed very, very quickly, relatively. And what we did after that part is we decided to create such a representation of this application for mobile devices. And as you can see here, this is a screenshot from the view. I'll also provide you, sorry. didn't mean to do that. I'll also provide you with a link to this one. For a good view of this application, it is best to be viewed on Google Chrome. As you can see, this is the application here. For example, I go to work is of course empty, and because we don't have any work, I'm joking, and you can see emails here. You can, of course, when you're browsing to this page through mobile devices, you have pinch and swipe functionality, just as you're used to from normal mobile applications. Right. Just one thing I forgot to show. Let me quickly run this page again. When you go to this application, as I referenced before, the Gizmox Web GUI Forms Themes assembly, you're able to view applications in different themes, built-in themes. For example, this is the Gmail theme. You can see a theme designed using the theme designer from the ground up. You can use, for example, Facebook view for your application. If you open the dialog, you'll see this is a very, very different look for your application. Let's see, for example, the analytics, which is completely different. The analytics view. You can see the menus. Everything is completely the tree. Even the navigation is completely different from the way it was before. This is all done very easily using the theme designer, as explained previously. So that's for mobile. This is available to you now, and as I'll explain, the technology behind. Basically, you create a visual web GUI application, and we have an engine in the background that allows you to virtualize part of your views. As you can see, screen parts that are bound to a mobile streamer that is then showing the application or the part of the application that you're meant to show using the same server side, the same application developed for the desktop. You're just setting a different view for this application to be shown on the mobile. You will be seeing a roadmap for this feature available to the community in the next slide. This is really important for you to see, because as you can see, you have the view of the directories, and you can see the view of the directories here. You can see you can set this as an initial screen, and afterwards, when you click on a specific directory, you get the email. So you get the list here, the list in a pink border here afterwards, and this is all very, very, very cool and very easy to use. Right. Okay, so to the next slide. Enterprise Mobile. Well, basically, Visual Web GUI .HTML5, as I explained before, comes out mobile enabled. That means you can view your applications with the current controls on mobile devices. It's not meant to be shown on mobile devices, but you can build your applications so it will be logical for them to be shown on mobile devices currently. The first beta was released in the end of March 2011. Probably shown to the community only in April, in the 1st of April 2011. The official release, as previously said, is in the first quarter of 2012. The Visual Web GUI mobile framework, the mobile designated framework, is a completely different thing. The mobile designated framework is to allow you to provide you with the subset, a complete subset of mobile designated controls. Complete subset of mobile designated controls with all the functionality of mobile, with all the best practices of mobile development, mobile application development. This is all going to be provided to you as part of the SDK as a first beta in November 2011 and as official release in the first quarter of 2012. This is a major breakthrough in Visual Web GUI because you will be able to develop your applications, as I said before, to normal web and to mobile and have them work seamlessly on both without making much changes. Sorry for taking a long time on this presentation. Now is time for questions and answers. If you have any questions, please raise them. I'll read them out loud for everyone so they'll be able to see. Right. For the first question, can we get the slides? Well, I will be posting the slides online very soon with the video of this presentation, so you'll be able to get that. And by that time, if any one of you will want this slide, you will be able to contact either sales@gizmox.com or support@gizmox.com and request it, and we'll of course send this presentation to you. The input that Citrix is going to have is definitely going to take us very, very, very strong to the direction of mobile devices, which is probably a very good thing for you, something you would very much like us to go into the direction of. Also integrating Citrix products into Visual Web GUI and vice versa, mostly in the direction of mobile. Visual Web GUI is written in C#. The framework, the server side of Visual Web GUI is written in C#. I get a question here: can Visual Web GUI be used in any .NET language? Well, any .NET language that ASP.NET supports, Visual Web GUI supports. So I hope this is a good enough answer for you. Can you data bind to entities? Yes, of course. As I said, you're able to use all the libraries that ASP.NET and other .NET frameworks provide to you. Of course, Entity Framework, LinkU, ADO.NET, whatever you like. Do you have a free version that is not a demo for a limited time? We have an express version of Visual Web GUI that is meant to be used either on Microsoft Web Developer Express 2010 or Web Developer Express 2008. Those versions of Visual Web GUI are completely free, and they come with an LGPL license. That means you're supposed to show an LGPL waiver on your application, on your application title. But you can develop your application using a visual designer. You have the theme designer. You have all the other functionality that is available to you through Visual Web GUI. Any tutorials on enterprise mobile? Enterprise Mobile is still very early, and we'd like to be close to a release of the first beta before we have any tutorials. We'll have very detailed explanations, code snippets, articles, walkthroughs, whatever you will need to be able to understand how to use Enterprise Mobile through the knowledge base, which I'll give you the link to in a second. This is again the Visual Web GUI website, and when you click on developers, you immediately get to the knowledge base, which contains large amounts of articles, code snippets, walkthroughs, videos, webinars,